The tennis world fell silent for a moment. Not the kind of silence that comes from boredom, but the kind of silence that follows a bombshell. The kind of silence that leaves millions of fans holding their breath, waiting for words that could change everything. Alexandra Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina sensation. The girl who had just won her first WTA title. The girl who had conquered Washington. The girl who had packed stadiums and broken records. The girl who had climbed to world number 20 and become the biggest draw in women's tennis. She had just lost. A 6-4, 6-0 defeat to Belinda Bencic in Toronto. A loss that snapped her 7-match winning streak. A loss that left her battered, bruised, and exhausted. A loss that made the tennis world wonder, what went wrong? And then she spoke in her post-match interview. Alex Eala revealed something that exposed the truth behind her defeat. Something that no one had expected. Something that explained why the unstoppable force had suddenly been stopped in her tracks. The fatigue, the pressure, the emotional toll, she bared it all. And her words sent shockwaves through the tennis world. The scene was Toronto, the National Bank Open, a WTA 1000 tournament that had witnessed history in the making. Alexandra Eala had arrived as a champion, fresh off her historic Washington title victory. She had become the first Filipino to win a WTA title, and she had climbed to a career-high world number 20. The world was at her feet. But tennis is a brutal sport. It doesn't care about your past victories. It doesn't care about your rankings. It only cares about what happens on the court. And on this night, something went terribly wrong. Eala faced Belinda Bencic, a 29-year-old Swiss veteran, a former world number 4, an Olympic gold medalist, a woman who had won the Canadian Open 11 years ago when she was just 18 years old. Bencic was a seasoned champion, a master of the hard courts, a player who had seen it all, and she was hungry for another victory. From the very first point, the match felt different. Eala, who had been invincible for 2 weeks, looked tired. Her movements were sluggish. Her serves lacked their usual sting. Her ground strokes were off target. Something was wrong. The crowd sensed it too. They had come to see the giant killer. They had come to see the girl who had defeated Iga Swiatek, Jessica Pegula, and Naomi Osaka. They had come to witness another miracle. But instead, they saw a young woman struggling to keep up. Bencic jumped to an early lead, breaking Eala's serve in the third game. Eala fought back, as she always does. She broke Bencic's serve twice, leveling the first set at 4-4. For a moment, it looked like the old Eala was back. The fighter, the warrior, the girl who never gives up, but then the wheels came off. Bencic, sensing her opponent's vulnerability, raised her game. She broke Eala's serve in the 9th game, then held serve to win the first set 6-4. The second set was a disaster. Bencic completely dominated, winning 6 games in a row. The final scoreline was 6-4, 6-0 in just 1 hour and 13 minutes. It was Eala's first bagel loss of the season. Her 7-match winning streak was over, and the tennis world was left wondering, what happened to the unstoppable Alex Eala? After the match, Alex Eala walked off the court with her head held high. She smiled at the crowd, waved to her fans, and disappeared into the tunnel. But inside, she was hurting, not just from a loss, but from everything that had led up to it. When she finally spoke to the media, she revealed the truth. And it was a bombshell. Tough one today. I think Belinda put me in some really tough situations. I think she played really well. I wasn't able to kind of get myself out, and, out of a certain mood, Eala said. Her words were measured, controlled, but there was something underneath them, something deeper, something that exposed the fragility of her situation. For the first time, Eala admitted what everyone had suspected. She was exhausted. She had been running on fumes. The past 2 weeks had taken everything out of her. She had played 7 matches in Washington, winning her first WTA title against the best players in the world. She had flown to Toronto, played 2 more grueling 3-set matches, and faced a fresh, well-rested opponent in Bencic. And her body had finally given out. It's always tough, of course, after a loss, but like I said, I'm looking back at these past maybe 2 weeks as a really big positive. I think I played really well. I've gotten through so many obstacles. Of course, right now, there's that initial kind of just a little tired and down from the match, she confessed. But it wasn't just physical fatigue. It was mental, emotional. Eala had carried the weight of a nation on her shoulders. The Philippines, a country of 110 million people, had been watching her every move. They had packed stadiums, filled social media with support, and stayed up late to watch her matches. The pressure was immense. And then there was the ankle injury. During her match against Katie McNally, Eala had rolled her right ankle. She had taken a medical timeout. She had limped through the rest of the match. But she had fought through it. She had won, and she had been determined to keep going. Against Bencic, the ankle was still a problem. She was nursing it throughout the match, struggling to move with her usual agility. Her defensive game, which had made her so dangerous, was compromised. Bencic, a tactical genius, had exploited this weakness perfectly. And then there was the timing. Bencic had played fewer matches, had more rest, and had a specific game plan. She had beaten 10 consecutive left-handed players since 2024, a streak that even surprised her. I really hate playing lefties, Bencic admitted. But maybe I have good timing. I'm able to adjust. That's the only thing I can think of. The stars had aligned against Eala, and she had finally admitted it. What made Eala's revelation so powerful was her honesty. She didn't make excuses. She didn't blame her opponent. She didn't complain about the schedule. She accepted the loss with grace and dignity. And she opened up about the emotional toll of being a global superstar. I mean, of course, I knew it was the last time that I was going to be out on that court for a while. So, the atmosphere this whole week has been just incredible. It's hard to describe to other people kind of the feeling of being in that stadium full of course, the fans and all the love. Eala said that she had felt the love. She had seen the Philippine flags waving in the stands. She had heard the chants of Eala, Eala, echoing through the stadium, and she had been deeply moved by it all. But that love came with a price. It came with expectations. It came with pressure. And at the end of the day, she was still just a 21-year-old girl who was trying to do something no one from her country had ever done. I'm super grateful for the experiences that I've had here in Toronto. It's been an amazing debut. I'll carry these memories with me for a really long time, she said. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of emotion underneath it. She was fighting back tears. And then she revealed the most vulnerable part of her journey. She talked about the need to count her blessings. She mentioned her health, something that had been a priority for her. She admitted that despite the loss, she was healthy, and that was something to be grateful for. But yeah, I'm healthy, which is something I'm super grateful for, something that's obviously on the top of my priority all the time. So, yeah, I'm counting my blessings. I'm taking the lessons that I've had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more and in a better way in Cincinnati and New York, Eala said. This was not the arrogance of a superstar. This was the humility of a champion who knows that failure is part of the journey, a champion who knows that every defeat is a lesson, a champion who knows that the greatest victories come after the darkest defeats. Eala's fans, who had filled the stadium in Toronto, understood this. They cheered her off the court. They gave her a standing ovation. They knew that this loss was just a temporary setback. They knew that the giant killer would be back. While Eala was struggling, Belinda Bencic was executing a tactical masterclass. The Swiss veteran had studied her opponent carefully. She knew about Eala's left-handedness, her aggressive baseline game, and her ability to feed off the crowd. And she had a plan to neutralize all of it. Bencic's strategy was simple but effective. She took the ball early, hitting flat, deep shots that kept Eala on the defensive. She moved Eala from side to side, exploiting her compromised footwork. She served with power and precision, winning crucial points at key moments. And she never let Eala get comfortable. I think she played really well, Eala admitted after the match. Belinda put me in some really tough situations. I wasn't able to kind of get myself out. It was an honest assessment from a player who had been beaten by a better opponent on the day. But Bencic wasn't just a tactical genius. She was also a mental giant. She had been through this situation before. She had won the Canadian Open as a teenager. She had beaten the best players in the world. She knew how to handle the pressure. And she knew how to shut out the noise. To be honest, the crowd is really loud. I think it's great. I think it's great for tennis to see a new fan base showing up, and especially the younger generation, Bencic said after the match. I know most of you guys were cheering for Alex, but I still have to say it was very nice for me to play in front of you all. Thank you so much for the great crowd tonight. It was a gracious comment from a champion who had just defeated the sport's biggest draw. Bencic knew that Eala was the fan favorite. She knew that the crowd was rooting for her opponent. And yet, she had stayed focused. She had executed her game plan. And she had won. Bencic's victory was more than just a win. It was a statement. It was a reminder that experience matters in tennis. It was a reminder that the old guard is still dangerous. And it was a warning to the rest of the tour. Belinda Bencic is back. The loss in Toronto was a bitter pill to swallow. But for Alex Eala, it was not the end of the road. It was a lesson about the importance of recovery, a lesson about the physical and mental demands of the tour, a lesson about the need to manage her schedule carefully. Eala's summer had been nothing short of spectacular. She had won her first WTA title in Washington, defeating a gauntlet of Grand Slam champions. She had reached the fourth round of Wimbledon. She had climbed to world number 20, and she had become the biggest draw in women's tennis. But all of that success had come with a cost. Former U.S. Open finalist Greg Rosetsky had expressed confidence in Eala's physical and mental resilience. She's strong mentally, and the mind and body go hand to hand. And when you're young, the body bounces back a lot quicker, Rosetsky said. I'm not worried about that, because she'll play Toronto, she'll play Cincy, and then she'll have a week off to prepare for the U.S. Open. That's what all the big names do. But Eala's defeat to Bencic exposed the limits of her endurance. She had played 3 three-set matches in Washington, followed by 2 more in Toronto. Her ankle was injured, her body was exhausted, and her mind was struggling to cope. The loss was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of humanity. Now, Eala must regroup. She will head to Cincinnati for the WTA 1000 tournament starting August 13th. She will have a chance to reset, recover, and prepare for the biggest event of the year, the U.S. Open. She has already been confirmed for the U.S. Open, where she will also compete in the mixed doubles with Felix Auger-Aliassime. The eyes of the world will be on her. Eala is still learning. She is still growing. She is still figuring out how to be a champion. The loss to Bencic is not a failure. It is a stepping stone, a chance to learn, a chance to get better, a chance to come back stronger. As Eala herself said, I'm taking the lessons that I've had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more in a better way in Cincinnati and New York.